Though Jesus said that people would recognize his disciples by their love for one another, it is certain that they are more likely to know us by the sign of the cross. We mark our churches with a cross. We hang it on our walls and around our necks. We even mark ourselves with the sign of the cross as a blessing. We even turn the cross into fancy jewelry. The cross is so common that we often fail to reflect on what it actually is. We go through the motions of making the sign of the cross without thinking about it. The Roman way of doing it may have been especially cruel, but in any form, crucifixion is a painful torture. The word excruciating ultimately derives from the Latin word for a cross, crux. Not only was it an extremely painful way of dying, it was humiliating. Our crucifixes and art show Jesus in a loincloth, but in fact, people were hung up on display stark naked before crowds of people. Dying on a cross was the ultimate in shame. It was repulsive. Revulsion at the cross was so strong that even a century after the Roman Emperor Constantine outlawed crucifixion, Christians apparently still could not bring themselves to depict Jesus on a cross. Possibly the earliest surviving Christian representation of the crucifixion of Jesus, there is a much earlier anti-Christian one, is a carving on a wooden door of the Basilica of Santa Sabina in Rome, dating back to about the year 430. It depicts Jesus and the two men crucified with him, but leaves out their crosses. In the background are some buildings with architectural details that merely hint at crosses. In Holy Week, we reflect upon the cross as what it really is, a horrible torture device. And we're forced to reflect upon Jesus as abandoned, degraded, tortured, and defeated. It is an image that draws a sympathetic response even from non-believers. If the murder of Jesus were all there is to Holy Week, there would still be plenty of matter for reflection. What is it about us humans that make us able to devise such horrible ways of mistreating one another? Why do we turn to violence in order to deal with those who differ from, challenge, or merely annoy us? What can we do to break humankind's addiction to violence? But Holy Week calls us to more than just sympathy for the agony of another, or guilt feelings over our propensity to violence and cruelty. For Christians, the cross is indeed a horror, but it is also the means and sign of salvation. So, while shuddering at its ghastliness, we at the same time glory in the cross of our Lord Jesus Christ, in whom is our salvation, life, and resurrection. Holy Week is, more than anything else, a call to what we commemorate on Thursday, Eucharist, another word for thanksgiving. We give thanks for what Christ has done for our salvation. The New Testament makes it clear that what he went through was something he did willingly, though certainly not cheerfully. He knew that faithfulness to the Father's love and to his own love for us would ultimately lead through his fear, pain, humiliation, and death to a deeper experience of that love. We give thanks to Christ for uniting with us, embracing the fear, pain, and death that are an ineradicable part of our lives. At the worst times of my life, Christ crucified is there with me. We give thanks to Christ for taking upon himself the worst of what we do to one another, entering into our sinfulness and violence, and forgiving it. The worst that we can do, the worst that we have done, has been embraced by God's forgiving love. And so I can have the courage to turn from sin, knowing that God's love for me is stronger than my sin. And finally, we give thanks because this Holy Week leads to Easter, the celebration of our baptismal union with Christ in the life-giving love of the Father. Like Jesus, we will die. We will endure our personal way of the cross. And, as for Jesus, that way of the cross will lead us to the fullness of life in God.